Hi everyone, today I'll be going through the process I used to create this effect for a short film. And the short film is a zombie apocalypse film set in the 17th century. And that's a British explorer, and he blows off our unfortunate zombie's head here, and we can see there's quite a big crater here. And the process I did to create this effect was basically, first of all, a ton of blood. As you can see, there's a lot of blood there, and then had to roto out the where his face was, and it was fortunate that he actually had a zombie prosthetic face that you can see here. This is obviously makeup. That's not how he looks in real life, and it had quite an obvious line around where the mask was, so I was able to use that to roto out his head. And then you place the some footage, or some nasty looking footage there of an empty skull, which I'm not sure, I couldn't find this. I did this effect quite a while ago. I can't find that exact picture, so I'm using a substitute which may not be as good, but it'll still look pretty decent. And then you have to match it up manually to the movement of his empty head. So here's the footage. Just drag that into a new comp. Okay, so it's the shot. There's the makeup line that I was talking about, quite visible. That'll help us to rotoscope out nicely. So the motion blur is quite a lot here. It's fading away the makeup line, so maybe I'll start here because some of these frames will be covered in blood. Not sure how many, but I'll start rotoing here, and I'll do the first two, maybe the first two frames in real time, and then I might fast forward them so you don't have to watch me. I'll start from around here and carefully get rid of where the makeup line is, and this, see how it's got like the shadow there? That's going to look quite good, because basically, obviously if your head got shot by a hand cannon at that range, the remaining skin wouldn't be terribly cleanly cut, so that's going to help make the skin look like it was ripped. So we might even attempt to get a bit of the edge of the makeup line in there. And it fades quite a bit when you get over this side, but that's alright. We'll just make up where the makeup line is and cut around his face. His beautiful face. Okay, now set it to subtract. We might work out the feathering a bit later. That's looking good, and it's really hard to, or set a keyframe, it's really hard to work out, how to keyframe all these points into the next frame when you've got a great gaping hole there. So what I like to do is just duplicate the footage, and on the bottom layer delete the mask, so now we can actually see where how we should move all of these points. We're going to move them one by one. Because there's a general movement, obviously they're not all going to move exactly the same, otherwise we could just drag all of them there, but that's actually going to move all of them basically most of the way where we want them to go. Obviously they're not moving correctly, but most of these are moving correctly, so now we only have to refine these a little bit, and maybe these a lot. So we'll begin doing that. Okay, I'm back, and that took me nearly 2 hours to rotor all those, I don't know, I think there were 18 frames. So that's the hardest bit done, and this is what it looks like. So it's pretty good rotoscoping. Obviously it was very difficult at the start because of the motion blur. So it looks quite terrible between each frames, but that doesn't really detract from the rest of the good frames. And also that the starting frames will be the ones most covered in blood. So even though this is a very terribly rotoed frame, that's the one that's going to be covered in blood, and the rest look awesome. Okay, so the next step is we want to place the his empty skull. So I've got a stump here, some stump footage, which is a prosthetic, and as I mentioned earlier, I think the photo that I used, like the photo stump that I used in my first example, it had it's been taken off the internet or something. I can't find it, so I'm using this one. It's not as good, but it will make do. Sorry to make excuses. I'm sorry, AE Tuts. I'm sorry. So we'll make this. We want this to somehow fit and make it look like an empty, hollow skull. So I'll come over to here with this, where most of the movement's coming, and we're looking for something that's hollow, and I can see there's a few hollow bits here. There's a hollow bit here, here, and here, and this one's the biggest one, so I think we'll use this one. So rotate this one so we can get that hollow bit here. That hollow bit. And that's what will be something like this. It's a bit small. I can't push this up further because of this. Obviously, you could. I guess you could clone stamp that. Clone stamp that out, which we might do. Here's the clone stamp tool. Okay, back to the footage. Alright, now what we want to do is try and make this, we'll need to cut it out because you can't just have this blob here, so using the pen tool again, we will come over here and pretending that it's sort of continuing on from here. So, and what I'm aiming to do is to make it look like an edge. So I'm going around, keeping all the shiny bits, as you can see. Because it'll look good if this is the edge because it's gleaming in the sunlight. If you just cut like a line across here, it wouldn't look as good. So we'll have to try and get all the shiny bits. And whoops, I missed all the shiny bits then. Must have been thinking. And just try and create a natural, looking line, not jagged or uniform. It has to be organic, just like this guy's brains. And you want quite a few vector points, sorry, pen points or whatever they're called. Not too many, but quite a few to show that it's jagged. Okay, that will do. Come back here. Mask completed. And that's what we've got. A nice hollow skull. And just having a look at the mask, I can see there's a few things I don't really like. One being this bit here. So I'll try and do something with that to make it look more appealing. That looks better. I guess this is a little high, just like my voice. Move that one down. And maybe this doesn't look very natural. It's too smooth, this curve right here. Way too smooth. Need to get some jagged. That looks better. I think that's about it. Okay, now what we need to do is obviously match this up. This is the second most annoying thing, after the rotoscoping of course. So you'll probably want to position the, you'll probably want to keyframe the position and rotation keys, and also maybe set the anchor point somewhere around here. So I want to set the anchor point to his neck, because his neck is the thing that's tilting his head. That'll slightly help out. So obviously it's in position here, it's not in position here. So what we need to do is attempt to match the movement of the frames. This is another tedious thing that I might decide will be best for fast forward. I'll try and at least get the first frame right. That's a good, decent first frame. So basically, when this kind of looks like his jaw. When that rotates, this will rotate just a little bit. We need the rotation to be more on the jaw because it's closer to the camera, and the hollow skull will rotate slightly less. So as you can see, the only rotation I made was 0.3, but that's the sort of movement we want. I didn't even position the keyframe. I don't think I need to from that one. I'm going to do the rest in fast forward, so you don't have to watch me do this very slowly. Okay, this is what we've got now. So as you can see, he's got his head here, still got his head here, and then that's the frame. So that's a massively violent transition, but that will be covered in blood. And that's what we're going to do now, add the blood. So the rule with indie zombie flicks is you can never have too much blood. So what I've got here is, back in the day, before Action Essentials 2, there was a website called, I think it's still going, Detonation Films, and they were the only people who shot, or who sold cheap HD blood footage. So it's, I don't even know if it's real. It looks a cross between real and fake, but it's got lots of really meaty parts in it. So I think I'm gonna be using, I'm gonna be using mostly Detonation Films blood stock that I bought, but you guys, probably most of you have Action Essentials 2 or something like that. You can just use that, doesn't really matter. So basically This is the start frame. Start it there. And the final of this is going to be 720. This is 1080 footage, but it's too small, so I'm going to scale this quite a bit higher. I think I'll at least be able to get away with 150%. Okay, so maybe I'll make this his eye popping, just like that. Pop. His eye gets popped. Okay, we'll set these to multiply. Also, if it looks really low res, don't worry, it's just because I've got it set to half. It's actually much higher quality than that. And keeping in with my rule, you can never have too much blood. I'm going to apply all of these. Okay, so we've done, we've put all of these blood elements onto the composition, and we'll see what this looks like. Hate that error, whatever that is. Okay, looks sick. That looks pretty epic. So many pieces of blood. Okay, now that looks good. We'll comp all this together. Control-Shift-C. We'll call this blood. Comp. And basically the reason why I'm doing this is just to apply a motion blur to and radial blur to everything. As you can see, it goes back to the original transfer mode, which is really weird looking. I guess it looks a bit more realistic. That's how much blood we got here. Either turn that on to keep collapse transformations, or just set it back to multiply. And what we will do is add, everyone had a big QQ on my last tutorial for not using motion blur, so I'm going to use some motion blur on this one, just to keep everyone happy. Set this to multiply. Don't want it too high, and also because as it moves, as it gets to the edge, it moves quicker. Well, it doesn't necessarily move quicker, but it fades, so I want to add some radial blur, which is my favorite, and set the midpoint to where his head is getting exploded from, and set it to zoom. Set the quality to high. Mount 10, I might take it up to 12. Let's see what this looks like. Very good. Now I might use some of the Action Essentials 2 footage. The blood splats in particular, these are very nice. This is I only bought the 720p version because I'm a poor. Basically, for some reason, I think this is intentional, it's way too slow. Yeah, maybe it's shot at 50 frames or something and then converted to 25, but it's way too slow for this. So go to time, enable time remapping. See how my comp is twice as long as it needs to be. I've done that on purpose so I can set a keyframe here and drag that in, which will essentially be making it go at nearly twice the speed. Might even need it quicker than that. Control K for comp settings. Comp 3 seconds. Oops. And I really want this spot to be very quick, so I'll drag that in all the way to there. It'll make it even quicker. Okay, that looks good. unsolo this. This will be sort of, I don't want to obscure the actual, because we've put so much effort into this skull, hollow skull thing. I want to put this down the bottom. Do something like this. Scale it right up. Also, this final comp will be 235. So basically, that's going to get the chop anything below there, and that's sort of what I want. I don't really want to see such a clean, like, don't want to. His head just popped. I don't want such a clean camera. This camera would be soaked in blood. So you won't be seeing anything below here. So don't worry about that. You could still scale this up. Actually, I'll keep it about there and preview this. Have I made this so quick that it's... I think I made this too quick. Let me just solo this layer. Sorry, I forgot to leave the initial frame. Obviously, the blood can't appear on the camera before the splat takes place. So now we've got the splat. I might make that a bit quicker. Let's see what that looks like. Looks good, and obviously we can't just have that part of the frame dirty and the rest clean. Add this bit here, rotate this like so. Multiply transfer mode again, scale way up. Most of the 235 clipping I would do for this shot will be cutting off way more of the bottom, keeping the top just to maintain a good composition. And again, this is way too slow, so enable timing mapping. Drag that in. Let's see what this looks like. This one here is way too dense. I just want, see, I don't want this terribly dark area. I just want the light splatter. That looks better. Okay, also have to box blur this because it's too close to the camera. It's on the lens. The camera cannot be in focus. Let's try 3. Okay, now this is looking very good. The one other thing that I would do is create a bit of an edge where the where his skull used to be. So for that, let us turn the blood off. Now in the footage we have this mask here. We can duplicate this layer, and the one below it we can expand for mask properties. Let me just fill this layer so we can see what we're dealing with. Okay, mask expansion. See, if we go negative, we get sort of an outline. That's sort of what I want. Solo this layer. Add some fractal noise. Delete the fill. Actually, no, I'll keep the fill. Change it to multiply. Basically, I just want a little bit of organic, well, bit of noise, so it's not, it's not completely red. Complexity, make it as complex, pretty complex. I think 20 is the max. Can't really see it, but that's right. Okay, now if we unsolo this, we can see. Obviously, it's way too light. Let's get the fill. Turn the mask path off so we can't see it anymore. I would say about here is good. Kind of an outline, and maybe make it a little less. -2, what does -2 look like? A bit thin. Okay, back to -3. Okay, now, that looks good. Obviously we can't have it with all these mask paths here, where we turn mask off, turn it back on. We're not going to want all these paths here creating that terrible thing. So we'll have to get rid of those. I'm thinking we could delete all those paths, but because we're not using this one's safe, we could remove these, but it's not going to help us very much. Okay, so we'll have to pre-compose this layer, remove all attributes, and we'll have to get rid of this by drawing a mask around it. So obviously it's going to start where this starts. And the subtraction mask, it can be quite rough. And invert that. So now we've got this sort of an outline of where his skull used to be, bleeding outline. Now we'll have to keyframe this. I'll do this in fast forward for you. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Got our nicely outlined skull here. Also, you could see that edge doesn't look so great. This looks really good up here, how it's got like the outlines, or the specular, but this doesn't look so great. You could just do the same thing with the stump. With this mask, expansion MM, we go -3, and get the same fractal noise from this layer. Where's your fractal noise, friend? Apply that to the stump. And that's the stump's outline. Bit much, maybe just one. Outline of 1 might help it. 2, go for 2. Yep, I'll go 2. And I'll also, because it's this stump, I'll darken it. That's a very nice dark color. Okay, that looks good. Now, let's add the blood back on. Press spacebar because I can't RAM preview for some reason. Okay, that looks really good, if I do say so myself. For an indie horror film with no budget. Okay. Now, for the final result, my friend did the color grading, and he also put the 235 on. So this is the previous effect, but basically, the only difference between these two is the camera shake. Besides the color grading, 235, and then there's camera shake. And everyone knows how to do camera shake, and if you don't, go to videocopilot.net and look at their camera shake tutorial, because it's the same as what I added here.